Imagine you are an ancient warrior. Ahead lies an army advancing. They don't shout. They don't charge in a chaotic manner. Thousands of soldiers march in perfect unison like a giant machine. Shield against shield. Spear against spear. No one breaks the formation. You realize you are facing the Roman legions. For over 500 years, the Roman army conquered vast territories stretching from Britain to the Middle East, from North Africa to Europe. They defeated countless powerful tribes, kingdoms, and empires. But what astonished historians wasn't the number of victories. It was their continued triumph after seemingly insurmountable defeats. So what was the secret that transformed the Roman soldiers into the most fearsome war machine of the ancient world? Today, we will explore why Roman soldiers rarely failed on the battlefield. Iron discipline. The first thing that set the Roman army apart was its discipline. For the Romans, the army wasn't a place for individual heroes. It was a place for those who knew how to obey orders. A Roman soldier had to train almost every day. They marched dozens of kilometers with equipment weighing over 30 kilograms. They dug trenches. They built walls. They erected camps. They practiced swordsmanship. They practiced throwing javelins. And all of this was done repeatedly until it became reflexes. Interestingly, they often trained with wooden weapons that weighed almost twice as much as real weapons. When they entered actual battle, every movement became faster and easier. If a soldier violated discipline, the punishment was extremely harsh. There were instances where entire units were punished for the mistakes of a few individuals. The Romans understood that an army is only strong when all members act as a unified body. Fidgeting like a matime. Many ancient armies relied on individual bravery. Warriors charged forward seeking glory. But the Romans thought differently. They didn't need heroes. They needed coordination. In battle, Roman soldiers stood close together in rows. The soldiers at the front used shields for protection. The soldiers behind provided support. When tired, the front row could retreat to the rear to rest while a new row advanced. This allowed them to sustain their fighting power longer than their opponents. One of the most famous formations was the testudo, also known as the turtle formation. The soldiers joined their shields together. The shields in front protected their faces. The shields above covered their heads. From a distance, the entire army resembled a mobile fortress. Arrows fired down were almost ineffective. This is why many Roman sieges were far more successful than those of their contemporaries. We're engineers witch swords. If you think Roman soldiers only knew how to fight, you're wrong. They were also excellent engineers. Whenever they stopped for the night, the Roman army would immediately build defensive camps. They dug trenches. They erected fences. They set up checkpoints, all within hours. This made surprise attacks almost pointless. In major campaigns, they built bridges over rivers. They opened roads through forests. They built siege towers. They invented catapults. They even built massive siege systems around enemy cities. Many other armies had to stop when faced with difficult terrain. The Romans, however, adapted the terrain to suit their needs. That was an incredibly formidable advantage. A perfect logistics eswastem. Military history has a famous saying, "An army marches on its stomach." Without food, without water, without supplies, even the strongest army will fail. The Romans understood this better than anyone. They built a network of roads stretching tens of thousands of kilometers. These roads not only served commerce, but also allowed the army to move quickly. Food, weapons, reinforcements, all were transported efficiently. While many opponents had to rely on local supplies, the Roman army could sustain campaigns for very long periods. That is why they often won wars that lasted for many years. Terrible adaptability. One of the greatest strengths of the Roman Empire was its ability to learn. They weren't so proud as to reject the ideas of others. If an opponent had a better weapon, they studied and improved it. If the enemy's tactics were effective, they found a way to adopt them. Many of the Romans' famous weapon designs, armor, and tactics were actually developed from what they learned from their opponents. This allowed the Roman army to become increasingly sophisticated over time. While many civilizations maintained the same fighting methods for centuries, Rome constantly changed to adapt. And on the battlefield, adaptability often determines survival. TA still lost, BUT never gave UP. Hearing this, you might think the Roman army was invincible. The truth is not so. They experienced terrible defeats. In 216 BC, at the Battle of Cannae, the brilliant General Hannibal annihilated tens of thousands of Roman soldiers. That was one of the most catastrophic defeats in military history. In 9 AD, 3 Roman legions were completely destroyed in the Teutoburg forest. Emperor Augustus is said to have been so desperate that he repeatedly cried out, "Varus, give me back my legions!" For many other nations, such defeats would have meant collapse. But Rome was different. They recruited new soldiers. They retrained them. They rebuilt their forces. And keep fighting. It is this resilience that is the most terrifying strength. So why did Roman soldiers rarely fail? Not because they were the strongest. Not because they were the most numerous. But because they possessed the perfect combination of discipline, organization, logistics, engineering, and adaptability. They fought like machines. They thought like engineers. And they recovered from defeat as if nothing could break them. That is why the Roman legions have become a military symbol that has endured for thousands of years. And perhaps the greatest lesson they left behind is not how to win, but how to rise again after defeat. If you enjoy fascinating historical stories like this, please like and subscribe.